Shalom family, I'm Brother Rael from ReYAHnitedSoul, and in this video I'm going to discuss the Mosaic Law regarding laws number 1 through law number 23. And I will simply title this discussion, The Fundamentals of Torah. So, let us nourish our soul with scripture that we may reunite with the Most High, the Elohim of Yisrael. All scriptures will be read verbatim from the King James Version Bible. Now let's get right into it. First, allow me to welcome you to the Mosaic Law series where I attempt to simplify, introducing the law to those who may not be familiar with it. It is necessary for our people to familiarize themselves with the law of Moshe, also known as the law or the 613 commandments, which can be found in the Torah that is located in the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The number 613, as in 613 commandments, derived from the sum of 248 positive commandments, as in do such and such a thing, and 365 negative commandments, as in not to do such and such a thing. Some may contest the number 613 because of duplicate or repetitive commandments. Some even believe that the number 613 may be symbolic. However, this is not the focus of this discussion, although I will try to point out duplicate commandments when I come across them. I will utilize the number 613 in this discussion for the purpose of identifying specific commandments. And you may notice that the 613 commandments may be arranged in different order, depending on the source that you use. It would be useful when dealing with the 613 commandments to identify the source that you are referencing. For example, in this discussion, I will cover commandments number 1 through number 23 from the widely accepted list from the 12th century scholar Maimonides, who is known to be the first to document the commandments from the Torah. So if your list of laws are arranged in an order that is different from the one in this discussion, now you know why. Also, for the sake of this discussion, I will from here on refer to the 613 commandments as the law. As in, I will point out laws number 1 through number 23. For the sake of this discussion, I will identify the law, state the purpose of the law, and cite the scripture that is assigned to the law. Also, for the sake of transparency, I will read the scripture verbatim from the King James Version Bible. However, when stating the purpose of the law, I will omit the word God, He, or Him, and replace it with Elohim or the Most High. I will omit the word Jew in laws number 13 and law number 15 by replacing it with Yisrael, simply because the name of the Most High's people are called by His name according to 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. Lastly, I will omit the word convert in law number 14 because the law has nothing to do with religion, as in those who convert to a religion. The law has everything to do with the covenant that the Most High made with only His people. So I will omit convert in law number 14 and replace it with the word stranger, which actually agrees perfectly with the scripture assigned to it, as you will see in a moment. Now, some of our people may see the law as being too strict or too complicated to keep, simply because our biblical ancestors failed to keep it. Not because it was strict or complicated. Our biblical ancestors failed to keep the law because they wanted to mingle with other nations who worshiped other gods. and the Most High is simply not going to have it. However, there is one thing that we know for sure as the Most High's remnant, after 400 years of captivity and affliction, that our biblical ancestors may not have known. And that is, we have documented proof of the nations who are confederate and hell-bent on keeping our people in poverty and in servitude to them. The nation's wickedness has been exposed, and we see them for what they truly are. So, once the Most High restores us as a holy people and moving forward, we know as a holy nation what must be done. Shout out to King David, the warrior king who subdued all his enemies. Now, before getting into the law, let's understand the importance of keeping the law from Moshe himself, according to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 5 through 9, and I read, Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who hath God so nigh unto them, as the Lord our God in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? Only take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them to thy sons and thy sons' sons. And let's also hear what thus said the Most High about the law of Moshe, according to Malachi, chapter 4, verse 4, and I read, Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Contrary to what the church told us, the law is not done away with, brothers and sisters. The Most High did not tell his people to stop keeping the law, which is still relevant to the Most High's covenant and our heritage. Get yourselves familiar with the law and keep it to the best of your ability, as did our biblical ancestors Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah while in Babylonian captivity, who you may know better by their Babylonian names: Belteshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, without further ado, let's begin this discussion, the fundamentals of Torah, with law number 1, to know there is an Elohim. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 20, verse 2, and I read, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Law number 2, not to entertain thoughts of other gods beside the Most High. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 20, verse 3, and I read, Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now, as a side note, not only are we not to entertain thoughts of other gods, we are commanded not to even speak the name of other gods, according to law number 46. Do not swear in the name of an idol. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 23, verse 13, and I read, And in all things that I have said unto you be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. Law number 3, to know that the Most High is one. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. And I read, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Law number 4, to love the Most High. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. And I read, And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. Law number 5, to fear the Most High. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 20. And I read, Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave, and swear by his name. Laws number 6 and number 7 shares the same scripture. I will read both laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 6, to sanctify the Most High's name. Law number 7, not to profane the Most High's name. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Leviticus chapter 22, verse 32. And I read, Neither shall ye profane my holy name, but I will be hallowed among the children of Israel. I am the Lord which hallow you. Law number 8, not to destroy objects associated with the Most High's name. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 4. And for better clarity, I will read verse 3 first, then verse 4. And I read, And ye shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God. Law number 9, to listen to the prophet speaking in the Most High's name. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15. And I read, The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. Law number 10, not to test the prophet unduly. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16. And I read, Ye shall not tempt the Lord your God, as ye tempted him in Massah. Law number 11, to emulate the Most High's ways. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 9. And I read, The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. Brothers and sisters, we have a covenant with the Most High. And according to Torah, we are to walk in the Most High's ways. However, majority of our people are following and emulating the ways of another deity, not the Most High's. But many of our New Testament brothers and sisters will claim that they are following Torah and keeping the laws, yet proudly and clearly embracing a doctrine that is contrary to it. Brother Rael, you are causing so much division with your divisive language. Okay. When the Most High gathers his remnant, according to Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 3, and separate them from the majority of his people who are not wholly following him, will you also say that he is being divisive? Law number 12, to cleave to those who know the Most High. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 20, and I read, Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave, and swear by his name. Law number 13, to love Yahweh. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, and I read, Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Law number 14, to love the stranger that cleave to Yahweh. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 19, and I read, Love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Now, law number 15, number 16, and number 17 shares the same scripture. I will read all three laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 15, not to hate Yahweh. Law number 16, to reprove wrongdoers. And law number 17, not to embarrass others. The scripture assigned to these three laws is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, and I read, Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Law number 18, not to oppress the weak. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 21, verse 22, and I read, If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Law number 19, not to speak derogatorily of others. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 16, and I read, Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. Now, laws number 20 and 21 share the same scripture. Law number 13, to love Yahweh, also shares the same scripture. I will read both laws number 20 and 21, then the assigned scripture. Law number 20, not to take revenge. And law number 21, not to bear a grudge. The scripture assigned to these three laws is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, and I read, Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Law number 22, to learn Torah. You may also see it read as to learn Torah and teach it. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And for better clarity, I will begin with verse 6, and I read, And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Law number 23, to honor those who teach and know Torah. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 32. And I read, Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head, and honor the face of the old man, and fear thy God. I am the Lord. Hoary, meaning grayish white in color, taking into account that the elders were expected to know and teach Torah. So, there you have it, family. The Mosaic Law, number 1 through number 23. Not too complicated at all. I'm certain that eventually we will come across laws that may be more complex to keep than these. However, we got this, brothers and sisters. Familiarize yourself with the law and keep them as best you can while in the land of our captivity. It would do us well for what is coming. And although our situation in the black community looks more dire day by day, our problems are not perpetual. No, not at all. There is an end to the hate and chaos that afflicts us, as well as an end to the governing system that endorses it. The Most High is coming to gather his remnant. And out of that remnant, the Most High will raise a righteous branch unto David and will execute judgment and justice in the earth, according to Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 3 through 6. And I read, And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. The Most High can use a small number of people, like the remnant, for his glory. Let's be very, very clear. He can do more with the small number of his people who wholly follow him than he can with the majority of his people who has adopted the ways of the heathen and serve their gods. Brothers and sisters, let us return our focus back to Torah, back to our covenant with the Most High, and back to trusting in the Most High, in which you simply cannot do without keeping the names of other gods out of your mouth. For the Most High Yah is a jealous Elohim. Remember laws number 2 and number 46 that shares the assigned scripture, Exodus chapter 23, verse 13. And I read, And in all things that I have said unto you be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. Many are unknowingly guilty of this. However, when we know better, we can do better as a people. All praise to the Most High Yah. Now, I really hope that this discussion was helpful to you in regards to the law of Moshe. Please have a look at my other videos that you may not have seen while you are waiting for the next discussion on this series. Also, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section as well. I do value and appreciate reading all of your comments. With that said, always keep your trust in the Most High. Love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. See to it that your household is in line with the word of the Most High as best you can. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I am Rael, your reunited soul brother. And with that, I say to you, Shalom.